Boxing. Beats and rhymes. No one can do it better.
Martin is coming. The boogeyman.
I'm blowing up like a Scud missile hitting land. So take a stand and wave your hand, cause I'm your boogeyman.
What did you make of the whole Martin Bakole situation, which was insane? What happened here in Saudi over the last 48 hours? Dubois ill, Bakole's on holiday in Congo.
I get it, you ain't got That's your job. Do you want to carry on? Congo, 2 flights, late call up, stepped in, heavy than he was in his last fight. So that's that saga. I think Bakole, he believes in himself. What's a bit of weight? We train all year round, us fighters. Yeah, he wasn't in the training camp, but I know fighters that run 10K, hit heavy back on 30 rounds, spar, but still aren't good fighters. It's about self-belief. Fighters that come in out of nowhere and end up doing well because they've got a sense of self-belief, and I think Bakole was carrying that in the ring with him. He wasn't carrying a 5-month training camp. He was carrying a lot of self-belief. I think he believed he could do it. If that right hand would have landed on anyone, even if they had a 5-month training camp, the heavyweight division shows you that a fight could change just at the blink of an eye.
I think some people forget the difference between football and boxing. You can get upsets in football, FA Cup upsets. Non-league team have beat, can't name any Premiership teams, but definitely all First Division. There were some upsets. But the difference is, you have a set 90 minutes on the pitch. No matter what. You don't have a set amount of time in a boxing ring. It's scheduled for 10, scheduled for 12, 3 minutes around, but
I don't get paid for overtime. I'm here to fight.
Bone Crusher Smith was a late replacement in that heavyweight tournament which Mike Tyson won in the 80s. Late replacement for Tony Tubbs. And he knocked out Tim Witherspoon in a round. Now there's a lot of circumstances to that, but I don't have to explain them to you. In boxing, sometimes you get knocked out of your stride. Before you can get in the fight, it could be over. So all the training you've did may well come down to nothing. In football, it's a different kettle of fish. It's very hard for a non-league team with all their players working part-time jobs to beat 11 full-time professionals over 90 minutes. It's very difficult. Very difficult. In boxing, it just takes one shot.
I don't get paid for overtime. I'm here to fight.
Martin was touching Joseph up with body shots and uppercuts. Joseph Parker said he was hurt. So everybody's saying this was the worst decision ever to take the fight. Anthony Joshua is spot on the money. Now, if Bakole was some defensive guy who was really stingy with his point-scoring ratio to how much he's going to take punches back, I'd understand. But in hindsight, and I'm saying in hindsight because I thought Bakole was going to beat Joseph Parker's ass, yeah? In hindsight, Bakole is wide open. He's wide open. Even with full training camps, he's wide open. In the world, we have very litigious societies, compensation culture, where people want to get paid at the slightest opportunity. That's why with combat sports, you have a lot of red tape, a lot of bureaucracy, because you've got to ensure venues, fighters, health and safety, medicals, MRI, eyes have to be tested. Then you've got the added cost of PED testing. You can't have as much cards as you did back in the day because you've got to be meticulous and make sure you've got all points covered. But they're going to take you to the cleaners if you're a promoter or part of the event being organized. Some of you are old enough across the pond to remember Mike Tyson was fighting every week. Can't do that now because of all what I just explained. You can't do that. It takes longer to organize events. What the Saudis are doing, they're trying to use their money so things move quicker than they do in 2025. Martin Bakole chose to take that fight. I'm hearing a lot of people getting blamed when Bakole chose to take the fight. Was it indulgent of Turki Al Sheikh at his request to call Martin Bakole? Yes, it was, but he's an indulgent man. How do you think multi-billionaires are living? Frank, Eddie, I don't care about your back and forth. We don't like each other. Make these fights because it will be good for the bottom end of Matchroom and Queensbury. Here's the figures. Let's go to work. The bottom line is boxers are going to take risks to get that Saudi bag, and you're going to have to get used to that.
The first thing was not let Excellence down, because I turned down already his proposal. He always proposed me Zilizang. I was not ready. I said, sorry, I can't make it. Now I was in the Congress where the second thing was the good money was involved in. So I said, why not? The second thing was the good money was involved in. So I said, why not? The second thing was the good money was involved in. So I said, why not?
He said it out of his own mouth. He didn't want to let down Turkey al-Sheikh. Well, that's his choice, if that's what he wanted to do. Then he said, for the purse. He did it for the big purse. People have it in their heads that they want a story to go a certain way. And if in their mind they have to embellish so they can tell you who are the innocent parties and who are the victimizers, they'll go into full pantomime mode. They're painting out Billy Nelson to be the greedy Scottish manager taking advantage of the Congolese fighter, because people prefer it to be like that. That is the boxer being exploited. That is the people who don't lace up the gloves are doing the exploiting. But I'm here to tell you this now. There's no Blinky Palermo or Frankie Carbo running around the place, or in the United Kingdom's case, there's no Benny Huntsman and East End gangsters or whatever pulling strings for old Jack Solomons. That's not happening here. Grown-ups are making grown-up decisions. Now, Martin has a bit of a childlike demeanor.
The second thing was the good money was involved in. So I said, why not?
He has a playful demeanor, should I say. A playful demeanor. Because you see Martin Bakole's victory over Jared Anderson, the trending story, yeah? Or you see him on this card and that card, and you see Billy Nelson on Matchroom TNT, The Zone. You see him here, there, everywhere. It doesn't mean these guys are paid like you think they are. Remember that rumor? That Francis Ngannou got paid $30 million to fight Tyson Fury? And Turkey shut it down. He didn't get nowhere near that. TalkSport collected these figures. They're saying Joseph Parker, out of a $2 million pot for his fight with Bakole, netted $1.58 million. And they're saying Bakole took home 470,000 pounds, likely a career highest purse for Martin Bakole. Not everybody's getting it in, like Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. Not everybody's getting it in like that. That's the first thing we have to establish. At the same time, Turkey's paying these guys a whole lot more than what they're used to getting paid. A whole lot more. But not what some of you think. Billy Nelson has been tolling away with Martin Bakole for 9 years. He's been tolling away with Martin Bakole. Small hall shows, Lancashire, Glasgow, Manchester, York Hall, 4-rounders, 6-rounders. The breakout fight was with Michael Hunter. That was on Channel 5, I believe. By this time, they hooked up with the McGuigans. How much do you think they got paid for that? I couldn't find the purses, but how much do you think they got paid? Michael Hunter and Martin. Let me tell you, it wasn't much. Now, it seems Martin and Billy weren't on the same page when they were asked a few questions post-fight. Billy apparently said that Martin had did 8 weeks in the gym, which Martin dispelled. Billy is probably full of regret right now. I know you guys think that Martin is earning all these big purses for Jared Anderson and when he was going to fight F.A. Ajagba, which is still happening apparently. He was going to get a huge purse. The purses are not what a lot of people think they are. They're looking at the fight before Joseph Parker and thinking he'll just do F.A. Ajagba the same way he did Jared Anderson. These are not easy fights, and the training camps sure are not easy, yeah? Boxers have to make judgments, take risks, that in hindsight seem like the worst mistake you could have made when it all falls down. This is how Martin Bakole saw it. You're going to pay me 400 grand, and I don't have to train for it. I know it's not sitting well with some of you listening. It is what it is. Now, they're saying that the Ajagba fight is still there, but it won't be for an eliminator, right? Martin was weighing up the cost in a video. I see him talk about his box rec ranking, where he said he was knocked out of the top 4 or 5. Yeah. Now, Turkey is being a little indulgent. But here's the thing. We can either push him back out, and we won't get a lot of the cards we're getting, or we have to accept. To make this omelette, a few shells will have to be cracked. It is what it is. Looking ahead to May, for him to fight a Jagba after that last performance, that's 2 months away. He'll do what, the month suspension after being knocked out? Well, it's a case of learning from mistakes, isn't it? It's a case of learning from mistakes. If he goes into a Jagba fight and gets knocked out again, then boxing will be brought back into the dock. But at the same time, it's a judgment call from Martin Bakole first, because he's getting in the ring, he's taking the chances with his health. A Jagba is a world-ranked heavyweight with a high knockout percentage, and one of the longest reaches in the weight class, is a physical specimen. There's no guarantee that even if Martin declined the Parker fight and went into the whole 10-week camp, that he doesn't get knocked out by a Jagba for a fraction of what he got for fighting Joseph Parker. Boxers have to make decisions, tough decisions. The managers have to put suggestions on the table for the likes of Bakole. You can do it all the so-called correct way. And like Anthony Joshua said, you could take the full training camp, eat right, look great in your workouts and sparring. It just takes one bad performance. I heard Joshua Boatsi was hospitalized. A precautionary measure, I'm sure, after all them punches he took against Callum. I believe he's been released from hospital, nothing too serious, but people are asking, should they have stopped the fight earlier? Virgil Hunter, should they have stopped it earlier? There wasn't no easy decision to make here. And for those of us who are not doing them training camps or not having to subsidize expenses, training camps, families, etc., while trying to work out what's the best deal, what's the best fight to take, negotiating purses. These are real life situations that boxers and managers have to deal with. Is Martin a people pleaser? He did it for Turkey, didn't want to let down the card. Perhaps did it for Billy. I don't know. I don't know him that well. And neither do none of you who are saying Billy did this, Billy did that. Maybe Billy has done a lot for him. Got him accommodation, maybe he stayed with Billy when he first got to Scotland. And maybe Martin did feel a bit obliged. Maybe he did. Maybe Billy did want the money. But that's what boxers do. They convince themselves they can do things that us looking from the outside are thinking perhaps maybe you shouldn't. And the managers do the same too. Because if the boxer looks at his manager and his manager is looking back at him like, are you crazy? Then the boxer goes in the ring with no confidence. It's a put up or shut up situation a lot of times for boxers and managers. And when we're talking about managers and promoters, you're not always going to come off as Mr. Popular with your decision. It is what it is. Sonny Liston's last fight was against Chuck Wepner. Some say the fight was fixed. Sonny was supposed to take a dive, which he didn't do. He bludgeoned Wepner into defeat. They asked Sonny what he thought of Chuck Wepner's bravery. He said Chuck's not as brave as his manager. A thug named Al Braverman, who let Chuck take a pasting. Chuck Wepner said he could feel his bones crunching every time Sonny hit him. Now, we're dealing with some mobster business with that quote there. I don't think Billy's in it as deep as that, but yeah, he wants to get paid. I see the British Boxing Board of Controller on the paperwork, though, for commissioning the card. They didn't stop Martin from fighting, did they? They didn't stop him. I haven't seen their name come up in the media. Hey, the commission or the board say, no, this is unacceptable. You know what happens? You don't get in the ring and fight. They didn't stop Martin. They didn't stop him. Would they have did that in the UK? Probably not. But hey, we all know it's Turkey's playground. Remember when 50 Cent was doing promotions? Put Gamboa, whose prime was at featherweight, with the big lightweight Terence Crawford, then put an inactive James Kirkland in with Canelo to try and save his company. That didn't work, did it? Didn't work. People criticize 50 for them decisions. I criticized him, but when your back's against the wall and you've invested all into this company, I guess it's easier to critique from the outside. I'll just say that. But like I say, boxing is make it up as you go along. Boxing is not structured where a lot of decisions are taken out of your hands. Like you know who you're going to fight next fight. Like Tottenham know who's next on the fixture list. Is it a league game, a European game, home or away? They know who they're playing next. Boxing, you have to plan your own route. There is no security in boxing like there is in football. It's as simple as that. There's no structure for pensions for boxers who retire. All of the footballers who play football under the PFA have pensions. You do realise that. They all have pensions. Healthcare provision and everything. How much boxers do you think have that? Unless they take these policies out themselves. You do realise Martin Bakole has been on Matchroom. He was on Matchroom's roster and didn't lose a fight while he was on there. He won all his fights on there and they dropped him. And at that time, TNT, Frank Warren couldn't compete with Matchroom. Yeah? If you ain't on Matchroom, you weren't doing shit. They dropped him. He was in the wilderness. I've been watching boxing a long time. A lot of people who comment on boxing, they probably don't remember Billy Nelson with Alex Arthur, Ricky Burns, and Scott Harrison in Scotland, or when Ricky Burns got in litigation with Frank Warren and was left with £200 in his bank account. And Ricky at the time had won world titles at a couple of weights. Billy Nelson had a hard decision to make, and so did Martin Bakole, and it blew up in their faces. Okay, in the closing minute of the 8th of 10 scheduled rounds, Bakole threw a lethargic right which landed over a left lead from his opponent, Michael Hunter. The interlocking arms jarred Bakole's right shoulder, and the taller man, Bakole, immediately leaned into a clinch with his eyes widening in pain and distress. His left hand wrapped around the crouching Hunter. Bakole pointed to his right shoulder in an attempt to forewarn his corner of the injury. A marked protuberance was visible, although following some tentative rotations he would perform in the 9th, the visual clue would disappear. Which leads the story of the fight to the exchange that occurred between the apparently stricken fighter and Billy Nelson, as heard by the TV audience in the 1-minute respite between the 8th and 9th rounds. It is with gratitude to the producers of the Channel 5 broadcast and their editorial instinct to show the corner work as fully as possible that the following transcription of Martin Bakole and his chief second Billy Nelson is made possible. Nelson says to Martin, "Carry on. Bakole, I want to quit." Nelson, "No, hey, 2 rounds to go, you must continue." Bakole, quit, put something on it." Nelson, "Martin, you need to listen. Bakole, muffled, "How am I supposed to win when I only have one arm?" Nelson, "Just work on the jab. We'll jab his head off. Please, you need to work, Martin. You've got no effing quit in you." Billy Nelson was criticized for not having empathy with his fighter, who was under obvious distress. Well, let me tell you something. Danny Williams had a protuberance in his shoulder when he fought Mark Potter around 2001 it was. The shoulder was obviously dislocated. It kept coming out. Danny, from Brixton, wouldn't quit. And against the run of play, he dropped Mark Potter with that right uppercut and somehow followed up and finished the job. I'll never forget it. And here's the thing. It's not for me to say who should quit or jack it in for the night or who should continue. I'm saying they're judgment calls. That can be the difference between winning and losing. And they're not easy calls to make. Now, you're probably saying, well, you can't compare that from pushing Martin in the ring with 2 days' notice, jet-lagged from a 14-hour flight. There are no easy judgment calls. Whether you want the fighter to push past the pain barrier or take a risky fight at short notice. I'm not comparing them. I'm saying they're not easy decisions to make. There was a lot of money at stake to fight at short notice. If you were to go through the whole history of professional boxing, what percentage of fighters do you think have earned 400k for one fight? Now, I don't do maths and I don't know what the answer is. I would guesstimate that 99 point something haven't made 400k. And we're talking about Hall of Famers, ATGs, also-rans, has-beens and never-have-beens have never made that kind of money. They're saying Joseph Parker shouldn't be proud of his win. Like, Joseph Parker engineered the situation. His original opponent went through a whole training camp, the champion Daniel Dubois, and had to pull out because he was sick. Joseph Parker has 1.5 million reasons to be proud of his victory. And he doesn't need my approval, or yours for that matter. What did Floyd Mayweather say?
Shane Mosley said Floyd Mayweather fights for money. You fucking dummy. I'm a prize fighter. That's what I'm supposed to fight for. A prize. Duh.
Floyd, now I didn't use that clip to say Joseph Parker is a mercenary like some people may accuse Floyd Mayweather of being, depending on how you see it. Joseph Parker has fought Anthony Joshua, Zhilei Zhang, Deontay Wilder, Andy Ruiz, Derek Chisora twice, Carlos Takam, Joe Joyce, Dillian White. With Frank Warren talking about sending a contract to Alexander Usyk to make that Dubois undisputed fight. Joe, who does he take next? Does he perhaps take a cherry pick? Some people say he should fight Caballero. It's hard to say. I mean, a title shot is in arm's reach. You gonna risk it against Caballero? Perhaps try and win the title first and defend against Caballero. I'm not saying that's what he should do. I'd love to see him fight Caballero, but once again, the decisions have to be made in boxing. They're not made for you like a structured league sport. The decisions have to be made. And none of them are easy, you know, for all athletes. With the money in sport right now, you have a very small window to get that big money. Someone offers you a supplement or products that could improve your performance, and you ask no questions, and next thing your performances start improving. You can also get popped. Pen violation. There's a lot of hard decisions to make.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better. Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.